There comes a time in a man's life when he has to look back at the things that have happened. Not only the things that have been done to him, but also the things that he's done to others. This is a hard pill to swallow, but if you truly want to understand yourself and the social world we've created, then we have to observe the ways in which we treat people and exercise empathy for others. Many men label others as being sociopaths and psychopaths, which may be true in some cases, but without a clinical diagnosis, this is just speculation. Even more unsettling is the lack of empathy shown by those who accuse others of being narcissistic, sociopathic, or psychopathic. I suspect there's a degree of projection in many of these accusations. Often those who label others as being sociopaths do so in order to reinforce the belief that they are a victim. They want to hold on to that victim label because it gives them the justification to hate their abuser forever and never let go of their pain. They blame the world and everyone else for the things that happen to them, but they never think to ask themselves, what kind of man are they? I've been guilty of this myself. The ironic thing is this: you cannot heal while you refuse to accept responsibility for the part you played in any abuse you suffered, and you cannot heal if you don't forgive your abuser and let go of that resentment, that pain. We see it in the school shooters and the incels. Their resentment defines them. Their hatred of people consumes them as they relive the rejection from females over and over. Why give them so much power? Why let your life be ruled by something an insignificant person did to you? Why be a perpetual victim? In some cases the pain is justified and ongoing, but to hold on to resentment will only keep you in that place of suffering. You're punishing yourself. Why? I think sometimes it comes from a man's inability to admit his own culpability. In some cases, it's easier to blame others and the rest of the world for your entire life, rather than face the fact that what's done is done, and no amount of rumination or bitterness will change the fact. What's even more disturbing is that some men are reveling in the suffering of others, specifically women or girls. What does it say about a man if he gets sadistic pleasure from watching a young woman break both her legs? Do those men hate women so much that they have no empathy when someone's life is ruined? Who's the sociopath now? It's sickening seeing men reduced to this, and it says more about them than the person they're trying to ridicule. Now, I've got no problem with people being called out on their character flaws, but I draw the line at mocking people or gaining sadistic pleasure from their pain and suffering. That would make me no better than any past abuser who did the same to me. I don't enjoy seeing other people suffer. It sickens me. Now, part of my recovery, and when I say recovery, I mean the recovery of myself, has been to look back on my life and recall many memories. If I'm honest, some of my past behaviour has been disturbing, and I wonder how or why I behave that way. Is it down to a lack of parental guidance growing up? Was there some underlying trauma playing out? Or is it just the human condition? Do we need a moral code to live by to keep us from doing harm to others? One thing's for sure, if we never admit to our wrongdoings, we will never be our authentic selves, because we will never address our own character flaws or feel guilt when it's justifiable. To repress guilt or shame when we know we've done wrong is to live in denial. Then it becomes a game of minimization, lies, and blame. You know how easy it is to admit you're not perfect and you've made mistakes in life? Once you begin to be honest about who you are, it's very easy. You don't have to go to confession. You just have to be honest with yourself, by yourself. It's all part of that introspection process. Why do we self-harm or abuse substances? They're just feelings of worthlessness turned inwards. It's one thing to punish ourselves for the ways in which other people have made us feel, but it's a different thing entirely when we punish ourselves because we hate what we've done and we can't even admit that to ourselves. You can sit in a room alone and reflect on everything that's happened and begin to process how these things came to be. I'm not saying we're wholly to blame for everything, or even partly to blame for some things, but we cannot delude ourselves that we are perfect and never to blame. How can you label someone a narcissist if you think you're perfect? How can we label others as being solipsistic or egocentric when we only ever see the world from our own point of view and never consider how our actions may affect other people? This is all part of being a better man. A bigger man. We are none of us infallible. How can we claim to want a better world to live in, or even begin to complain about the state of the world as it is, if we're part of the problem? Compassion, empathy, and understanding are the makings of a better man. If we reduce ourselves to the level of others, then we only add to the suffering. And if we refuse to let go of past traumas, or even begin to process them, then we will stay in that place. Be the change you wish to see in the world, and if others stay as they are and continue to do harm, just see them for what they are and avoid them. But it doesn't mean that we have to do the same. We should be better than them. If you have a functioning conscience, anything you do to harm someone else will come back on you. It will damage you, whether you admit to it or not. I'll be the first to say it. I've done some nasty things in my time, and I'm not proud of it. I have to hold my hands up and take responsibility. Sometimes we have to sit in the empty chair and see things from the other side. See how our actions affect others. If we don't, then we're just another sociopath who lets this world damage us beyond repair, and we only have ourselves to blame. It's all too easy to try and kid yourself that you don't care, or pretend that life's so short that it doesn't matter. But if you're honest with yourself, then you'll see how you try to repress the shame of your past, and it hasn't been good for you. Some people will call this victim blaming, but I'm not talking about child abuse or the abuse of helpless individuals. I'm talking about taking a good, honest look at ourselves and realizing our own flaws so that we can improve and not get stuck in that place just blaming women and this unfair world for some of the things we need to take the blame for and be truly sorry. It's not easy admitting when we're wrong, but it's a step closer to finding that inner peace and the authentic man we should be, so that we can hold our heads up and say we did the best we could. Penance is about finding balance and achieving peace. If you wish to send someone to hell, then you can end up sending yourself there instead. Why stare into the abyss? The desire for vengeance or retribution won't heal us. It only prolongs our pain and prevents healing from taking place. To break the cycle of pain, suffering, we often have to try to understand our abuser and some of the traumas they might have experienced. Did they learn how to abuse from their abuser? If so, then we need to be the one who breaks the cycle of abuse by not doing the same. It's no excuse to say that you hurt others because you were hurt in the past. What does that make you? And if you stay there in that place where it happened, then you're allowing the abuse to continue. Learn to forgive for your own sake and take responsibility when you do other people wrong, so that your conscience remains clear, or these things will build up in the subconscious mind, and there will be no end to the pain.